Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio. This is episode 12, and today Akash and I have got with us the owner of Get Nourished, David Towse. Now, usually we go straight in at letting the person introduce themselves, but I just want to add in like a personal touch this time and give a bit of background on David from my point of view. And that's that when Akash and I decided to set up RNT, I knew that I would drive myself stir crazy if I worked from home. And right at the time of launching RNT, I noticed some Facebook ads for a co-working space. It was a 10-minute drive from me. And it kind of got me out the house. You know, I pay a subscription fee and I can be around like-minded people. And literally from day one, as soon as I got in there, I believe Dave was actually the first member of what we call the co-tribe. I think I was maybe like member 3 or 4. So it's a really, really small team from day one. I told him what I was doing with my business. He told me what he was doing. We have similar passions that we're both into training and nutrition. And coming from a marketing background that Dave's going to expand on himself in a second, he was able to help Akash and I by dissecting our website copy and telling us, no, that's too wordy, you know, that's too much. And I was able to bounce ideas off of him as he's kind of the perfect client that Akash and I have always aimed for. So for those of you listening to this, the fact that you're listening to this shows that you fall into our camp, which is that you're interested in fitness, you're interested in training, you're an intermediate level, hence why you're taking the time to listen to our podcasts. So it was great to speak to Dave and get his input and his experience as to how we should initially set up our business and get going. So I want to start with just a quick thanks to Dave, actually, just on the podcast, openly, you helped Akash and I massively with our sales page and our homepage. And now over to you to expand yourself.
Well, that's firstly very kind of you to thank me for that. And so I guess the intro for me is I spent about the last 13, 14 years in various sales and marketing roles, predominantly in the health and beauty arena. I've launched a lot of brands for a number of different companies, small, medium, large companies, some VC or private equity owned, some large multinational companies. And I guess the bit that always frustrated me was that I was making a lot of money for other people and wasn't necessarily seeing the returns for myself. So I would launch a brand, it would then be sold on to another business, and the business would make the money instead of me. So I figured it was time for me to take the risk and jump into the big wide world of entrepreneurship and set up my own business with a view for hopefully making that successful and making some money from it in the future.
What elements have you taken? Because you've had an advantage coming from that sort of like marketing and consultancy background. What elements of that have you been able to push into Get Nourished? Where has it helped the most?
Yeah, so I guess the crucial bit has been around making sure that you develop a business and a brand and a range of products around consumer insight and around as best a possible understanding of who your customer, your target market customer is, and making sure you develop a product that's for them and not what you think is right, but actually taste testing it and religiously researching it to make sure that every facet, every consumer touch point is laser focused on that core target market. And hopefully, certainly the feedback I've had so far is that seems to have worked well, but it's a process that takes some time to go through.
And David, who is your target audience?
Yeah, so I guess it's a lot of people who will be on who will be listening to this right now. So it's people who are active, busy, on the go, often professionals who understand the importance of protein in their diet, but they're frequently out and about, traveling, working hard, and don't always have time to prep their meals and kind of prepare their protein shakes. And actually, they might be a bit fed up of consuming, X number of protein shakes a day that kind of all have that slightly artificial taste to them because of the artificial sweeteners that are used. These people, like you and I, they still want to taste good food. And that was the key thing for me with Get Nourished. This is about high protein deliciousness. So it's food and drink that's high protein, but it tastes as good as the non-high protein equivalents. The added additional part of it was really important to me is that all of the products that will be launched into the range will be lactose and gluten-free. I found out I was lactose and gluten intolerant about 3 years ago, but still wanted a high protein diet. And there was basically nothing on the market for me. And that was where I saw there was potentially an opportunity to launch a business that did all of those things, that ticked all of those boxes.
That's interesting you say that, because I was going to ask you, is the product that you've made solving a problem that you had while working in the sales and marketing world? Is it something that you kind of wanted yourself and you thought, okay, I want to make this for the masses?
Definitely. So I'm as Adam knows, not the most organised person, and I'm busy out and I'm on the go a lot, and I train a fair bit. I often train first thing in the morning, and organising my food and my nutritional requirements around that can be difficult sometimes, especially if you're on the commute into town, you've got meetings or whatever. So having convenient high protein food and drink that also tick the boxes for me of being lactose and gluten free, well, that just didn't exist in the market. And I went out and spoke to a lot of customers to find out whether I was just solving a problem for me and nobody else. But actually, when you start talking to people, I did a lot of research. So something like 67% of the people I spoke to actively searched out the amount of protein in the convenience foods and drink that they bought. And about 70% of them said they'd be buying more free from food and drink this year than they had done the previous year. So there was clearly a demand for it. The other stat that was really interesting was that when I asked them what to score their most recent high protein product experience out of 7 for taste, the average score was about 2.5.
Oh, really?
So there was clearly an opportunity to do something better for people that ticked all of those boxes.
And how are you doing these surveys?
So it's a combination of speaking to people in their offices. I did a number of online surveys as well, and just sometimes just literally talking to people on the street or talking to people in coffee shops or in gyms, and I just collated all that information over a period of time.
Amazing.
And I can attest, he's nailed the flavour of it.
Adam tells me you're very meticulous.
We have gone through an awful lot of different iterations. I mean, this has taken me the best part of 18 months to get to where we've got to. The first iteration started out, and they were, as I say on my bio on my website, I gave them to my sister and her husband, and it was all they could do to not spit it out in my face. We've come a long way since then. But it's about picking, the challenge has been about picking the right ingredients, the right high quality ingredients that give a good label declaration, but also give the right quality of taste to make sure that people love the product. And I haven't even probably talked about what the product is. So they're high protein iced coffees. And the thing for me is that I wanted them to make sure they tasted like coffee, but with subtle other flavor notes. And that was one of the challenges, was getting all of those things to line up together with something that was also high in protein.
So this isn't one of the questions, but let's add this in here just ad hoc. Talk us through the 3 flavors. It's a big one that I missed out. Now that we've mentioned what the product is, talk us through these 3 flavors.
Okay, so the 3 flavors are a vanilla latte, a hazelnut and cacao mocha, and a coconut and cacao mocha. And the reason I picked those 3 flavors, so I tested about 10 or 12 flavors with consumers, and I tasted on 2 different bases. I tested them on the basis of what people liked the sound of, and then what people liked the actual taste of. And those were the 3 that came out top. I had plenty of others that did well, and plenty of others that we could quite easily come back to in the future. Almond lattes and gingerbread lattes, but those were the 3. And this was what I came back to what I was saying at the beginning. I wanted this to be led by my consumers and my market, and the ones that rose to the top, and that's what customers wanted. So that's what I made.
And Dave, what are the key ingredients in the coffee?
Okay, so the key ingredients are a high quality ultra filtered milk protein casein, the 100% slow roasted rich Arabica coffee. And that one was probably the key crucial ingredient, was getting that to taste right in the context of the other flavors, and especially in the context of the amount of protein. So there's 25 grams of protein per 310 ml bottle. That is quite high, and higher than quite a lot of the other equivalent products. But we still managed to get that great, genuine, strong, rich coffee flavor to cut through. Then we've used some cacao, obviously in the flavors that we've got cacao in, and then some subtle other flavorings to bring out the other flavor notes that we talked about.
Nice. So it's only casein, not whey. Only casein.
That's it. It's just
okay.
casein. Yeah.
And if anyone's wondering, I mean, Dave's had a complete mixed array of feedback over which flavor is the best, right? So Dave's personal favorite is the coconut mocha. I noticed that the guys here in the co-working space were downing the vanilla lattes a lot. My personal favorite is the hazelnut mocha. So it shows you just actually how good all three flavors are if you've got a complete spectrum of them going. You know, Dave fills up the fridge, and it's not like it's just one flavor being, you know, nailed down. So all three flavors are damn good. And I wouldn't have Dave on here. I think everyone knows, especially the clients listening to this, both Akash and I are very minimal on supplements. You know, we don't chase trends. We don't chase fads. And I spoke to Akash last week. I've been talking to him about this whole business of Dave's all along. And now that it's launched, I said to Akash, I'm genuinely using the products every day I'm in here. I've just had a crate of 12 delivered from Dave. And anytime I'm sat at my laptop, I'm drinking one of these things. And I'm paying for it out of my own pocket. We get no kickback out of this. Just so we're open and clear on this. You know, so they genuinely are really good products. They genuinely taste really good. He's nailed it. And it's because he's put the work in behind the scenes. So I don't want to mention other brand names, but most people listening to this have probably tried other protein coffees. And I can tell you, you know, without doubt, Dave's, it just tastes completely different. The quality of it is completely different. It's the work that he's put in behind the scenes that has led to that. Leading on from that question, what kept you motivated throughout?
Yeah, that's a good question.
This is the bit that people don't see. Sorry to interrupt. I was just talking to Akash before you came on, and said to him that, you know, when we set up, we were able to, you know, we worked behind the scenes, you know, getting all the websites set up and our training videos and stuff. But come May, when we advertised on Instagram that we were launching, that was it. We were able to take clients on there and then. Whereas I've seen you since last May, back and forth and taking trips abroad and trips up and down the country just to get this product right. And it's testament to you for just seeing it through. And what's kept you going?
Yeah, I guess so. Ultimately, right, you're chasing the dream, and you've made a conscious decision to get out of the rat race and pursue a different lifestyle with a different objective. And I think it's always keeping that objective in your mind's eye. That, you know, there's no doubt that this process has taken longer than I expected, and it's been challenging at times. But you've always got to think, well, look, you know, I'm not doing that commute into town anymore. I'm able to see my wife and my kids more frequently. And whilst things are challenging, and you have to refocus your financial expectations and stuff for a period of time, you've always got that larger goal in mind. And I tell you, there's an exact example of this the other day when I was talking to my daughter, who's 7, and she said to me, I said to her, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And she said, "A teacher," which I thought was lovely. But then she asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And that's not just because I'm short, I don't think. And the answer that I gave her was, I wanted to have my own business. And the reality is that's exactly what I'm doing. So that was it seems silly, but that was like a bit of a light bulb moment. It's like, I am actually pursuing my dream right now. I talked about it for a long time. So that's sort of all the motivation you need, really.
Yeah, Akash and I think we're on the same wavelength here in that, you know, we spoke about doing this setting up our own thing. How many years ago?
3-4 years ago.
3 years ago,
probably.
And
3
then,
years ago,
and then we put it off a little
bit. It was a
bit.
sports massage course we first mentioned it, which was 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's it. We started to pursue it, and it was the same reason as you. It was like, we're both really passionate about what we do. We know we're good at what we do. Why are we working for somebody else and making them all this money? Exactly what you just explained at the beginning of the podcast. And then we put it off, and then we revisited it, and then we put it off, and finally ran with it. And now, it's kind of cheesy to say, but every so often, we'll text each other like, fuck, we're actually living this and we're doing it, and it's going to plan. So it's an awesome feeling for sure. What's your biggest advice on somebody new to, I hate using this word, but we'll use it, entrepreneurship. So people
I know.
business.
No one quite feels like an entrepreneur in here, do they? But that kind of, I guess, that's kind of what we are. That's the word for it. I guess my advice would be the key bit that I've had to learn is resilience. And if you think about the journey that I've been through, and you've seen it, firsthand, Adam, many days where you need to keep yourself at an even keel throughout the entire process. So that means don't get too carried away by the highs. So when things go well, don't assume it's going to stay that way. And also don't get too disillusioned by the lows, because there will be some, and it's easy to look at it and go, do you know what, this is just too hard, I'm going to give up. But it's just about how you bounce back, and you just park it and go, do you know what, that was a shit day, or that was a shit week. But actually, there's going to be those highs again. And it's about learning resilience and patience and staying true to the process and all the things that are keeping you productive, and just believe in the process you're going through and the end objective, and keeping that in your mind's eye. That would be my advice.
Yep. That's pretty solid advice. I think
What was the kind of the moment when you realized that you needed to quit the city?
God, there were a few.
Sorry, before you carry on, just bear in mind, for Akash and I, realistically, we had no ties. At this point, we're not married. We don't have kids. For you're married with kids. So this is a bigger step for you. So how did that go down with, Layla? And yeah, I just want to throw it in there for context, that for some people it's a lot easier to take this plunge. For you, it's...
definitely.
Because you get used to a lifestyle, and it's comfortable. Time. So what there must have been a big switch to flip that.
Yeah, I think it was. I tell you what it was. I was working for a kind of a small to mid-sized company. I'd been working there for about 3 years. Some promises have been made to me about what was going to happen in the business and what opportunities might be afforded to me, potentially from a share perspective and having an ownership of the business, blah, 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 blah.
So it's always that, isn't it?
We had exactly the same.
Yeah. And then a big chunk of the business was sold for an awful lot of money. And I'd helped grow that part of the business in the UK. It was also very successful in the US. And I got nothing. I got literally nothing from it. And I knew, and actually the sale didn't go through till after I'd left, but I sort of knew that I wasn't going to get anything from it. And that was the point where I was like, do you know what? This isn't the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
It's time for me to take my future into my own hands, and live or die by it. And also the other bit is that it's only so long you can talk about doing something with your friends and family before you completely lose face if you don't actually go and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to that point, I was like, I need to stop talking about doing it and just do it.
Put your money where your mouth is and do it, right?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Definitely. So what other products are in the pipeline? So right now, you've launched with I'm not even sure if you're able to disclose any of this. I should have asked you this before the call. But right now, we've got the high-protein iced coffees in the 3 flavors that are going down a storm here. What else is in the pipeline that you can disclose at this point? Obviously, you and I have had private conversations and stuff, so I don't want to put anything out there. If it's a secret, just say. I should have clarified this.
If you don't want to answer, I've got another question for you.
All right. Well, I think it's safe to say that there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. There's some properly transformational stuff. I mean, Adam, you've tried some of the stuff that we've got in the pipeline.
Yeah.
I hope that the next range of products are going to be award-winning in their taste. But I think I'll probably save the detail until a bit further down the line.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I should have checked before the call.
Well, how long have you been live now?
So we've been launched at for about 3 or 4 weeks now. About 4 weeks.
New then.
Yeah, really new. So we're live on our website, getnourished.co.uk. We're live on Muscle Foods, which is a coup for us. That's exactly the sort of target market for us. We'll be going into Holland and Barrett stores in about 3 weeks' time.
That's huge. Yeah.
So Dave's spoken to people about the ingredients and the taste testing and everything like that, but naturally that our podcast is for body composition. So the reason I want to say that I'm a big fan of the product, the two main things is that they're perfect for when you're working or pre-workout. So for the geeks out there that want to know, the specifics, 25 grams of protein. Dave, just correct me if I'm wrong. But I've usually got a pretty good memory for this. 25 grams of protein. I think they're like around 2.7 grams of fat. Am I right there? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
13 grams of carbs, 120 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, exactly.
Me, that's perfect. When I'm working at my laptop, or if like right now I'm on the call to you guys, I'm training afterwards. So I'll just down one before I train, digest so easily. For me, as Akash can attest to, and as I've mentioned on other podcasts, although I haven't been diagnosed like gluten and lactose intolerant, I don't digest lactose very well. So whenever I pick up, if I'm in Tesco's or something, and I pick up those for goodness shakes and those sorts of things, Upbeat, which Akash always laughs at when I grab them. Literally, whenever we meet, I'm just a sucker for these good. I'll pick it up, and he always looks at me and goes, "Is that a good idea?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be fine." 20 minutes later, I'm clutching my stomach in pain.
And he's running around, sweating.
Yeah.
One time in Croydon, right? Croydon or Clapham?
Yeah, it was Clapham.
We were sitting in Starbucks, and he ordered one of those drinks, right? There was no toilet in there. So he's like, "I'll be back in about 5 minutes." So you ran outside the coffee shop, and he wants to come back about half an hour later because he couldn't find any toilets that were available.
So I was trying to avoid this story. I was trying to leave it at just it hurts my stomach. But the reality of it is, some of these products really don't agree with me. And we were sat in Nero inside Clapham Junction Station, and I went to run into their toilet, and they had no toilet paper. So I ran back out and I said to Akash, "Fuck, I've got to go find another toilet." So I ran to, I think there was like a Costa again within the train station. So I sprint to this Costa. I run in there. I'm like, "Where's your toilet?" "We don't have a toilet." So I run back out. I run past him. I see him looking at me out the window. I run out of the train station. I do a left, and I remember there's this pub on the corner. So I run in this pub. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. I sprint into their toilets, and both the doors are hanging off the hinges. So it wasn't well designed. So I run back out. Right opposite there was a Debenhams. So I run in Debenhams. I'm sweating at this point. I don't know why I'm telling this story live on a podcast, but it's going to come full circle to Dave's product.
It's the perfect marketing pitch for his product.
Yeah, it is. And anyway, so I run over to this lady. I say, "Where are your toilets?" She says, "They're on the 3rd floor." So I get these escalators up, and usually I love an escalator. If I don't have to move, I'm in my element. But I ran up these escalators right to the top floor, sprinted into the male toilets, and there was an out of order sign on the door. I had to run back downstairs, cursing everyone in the store. I then sprinted up to, I think there was like an M&S. I ran up to the security guard in there, who looked quite alarmed at the speed that I was, charging at him at. I asked him where his toilet is. That store didn't have a toilet. In the end, I had to get on my phone, and I traced back our steps. We originally were in Nando's. So I traced back our steps. It was another like a 5-minute run from there. I literally ran to Nando's. The lady that, takes you to your seat, when you walk in there and like, have you been to Nando's before? How many of you? I'd already been in there like half an hour earlier with Akash. I said, I left my wallet in the toilet upstairs. It was a nightmare. I came back down eventually.
I was like, what the hell happened?
He's like, where have you been for the last 40 minutes? So sorry for those of you if you're listening to this while eating your meals or whatever. But this is the issue that I have. So the other benefit, alongside the 25 grams of protein, the 120 milligrams of caffeine, it's lactose free due to the added lactase enzyme that Dave has added to it, which means that I can quite comfortably sit at my laptop, slug this shake down, and I do not have to worry about
Dave, you need this testimonial on a website.
I know, yeah, this is.
You need to change all your marketing copy towards this story.
Honestly, it's a game changer.
The thing is, though, that's a story that I could genuinely relate to, and I think a lot of other people, when I start to talk to them, people who are heavy consumers of protein shakes and often talk about the same, and often a lot of them aren't formally diagnosed as lactose intolerant, but I think it's a bigger problem than perhaps people realise, and that was obviously a crucial part of why I developed the brand the way that I have done, and hopefully that will be great for a lot of people.
Yeah. Dave, what's the so you said 13 grams of carbs. Where are they coming from?
Yeah, so they're predominantly coming from sugar. So that we made that active decision, and again, I spoke to consumers about this. I said to them, as we're taste testing against the competitive set, I said, look, do you want it to be, a lot of the others talk about, 0 grams of carbs and all of this. And personally, I don't support that, like some, as you guys know, better than most. Like, you need some carbs in your diet and some sugary carbs in the context of your total macro intake in the day is not a bad thing. But more specifically, this was about taste first, right? And the artificial sweeteners that are used in a lot of protein drinks and shakes, that is the reason why you get that tacky, chalky mouthfeel. It's quite often not the actual protein itself, it's the artificial sweeteners that are used. And I spoke to consumers and I said to them, look, would you like a few extra carbs for something that tastes nicer? And 9 times out of 10, they said yes. There were a few who were adamant that it had to be super low carb. But the majority of people were like, do you know what? No, I would prefer you use a little bit of sugar and make it taste great rather than...
And do you think that could also be why they digest a lot better as well?
Yeah,
some people that don't respond well to artificial sweeteners.
Sugar alcohols don't digest properly, which is why we tend to pull them out of our clients' diets 5 days before photo shoots or contest preps.
No, I think that's definitely got a role to play as well. So, yeah, look, I've got no problem with, again, it goes back to the consumer. I give the consumer what they want, and that was what they wanted.
Well, I remember when I'd first started, this is before the taste testing, but you actually asked my opinion on whether I think it will be a bad shout for you to put sugar in it. And I told you back then I looked into it, and that although everybody demonizes sugar, it's actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Deteriorating health illnesses at the moment, like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. None of these are linked to sugar. These are linked to excess body weight and excess total calories. Mm-hmm. So in the context of a lean individual or somebody within an acceptable body fat range who has their calories and protein in check, sugar in the diet is no issue. And that's, of course, that's not us saying, right, you need to consciously go out and eat all of your carbohydrates from sugar. We want some fibrous carbs as well to keep us more satiated. But especially if you're going either into a workout, 120 milligrams of caffeine. So let's talk it on a 3-pronged basis. 25 grams of protein going into the workout is going to give you the amino acids to promote muscle protein synthesis and allow you to recover easier. 120 milligrams of caffeine is naturally going to get you fired up for the session. And then the small amount of carbohydrate in there, chances are you've probably eaten a full meal containing protein, fats and carbs anyway, 60 to 90 minutes before you train. So those additional 13 grams of carbohydrate in there are just negligible. It's only going to aid in muscle performance and contraction. The only caveat is if you're in the final few weeks of the contest prep or diet, photo shoot, and you're going really low carb, then I would say bang for your buck, you probably would want to go for like a whey isolate. But for the average person, for myself, I wouldn't be drinking these daily. If I thought there was any detriment to it, if anything, I think it gives me a performance benefit. And we also come up, we spoke briefly the other day about having them post-workout. You had somebody ask you, is it detrimental because of caffeine post-workout? It raises cortisol, so on and so forth. And I sent you the link across that actually it's been shown that caffeine post-workout can help with glycogen replenishment, glycogen resynthesis. Yep. So that alongside something, this is me just geeking out for those coming away from the product and then just a little bit into the science now. Taking it, my recommendation would always be to take it pre-workout, but taking it post-workout, you'd have the advantage not only obviously of the amino acids from the protein with muscle protein synthesis, but when we combine carbohydrates with protein, you get a marginally higher protein synthetic response. So they actually work synergistically than protein alone. And as I said, the caffeine can actually help with glycogen resynthesis. So you can really use these either time, but my recommendation would be pre-workout, purely because I prefer that kick of caffeine before I train.
And then, I'll tell you what, the other way I use them as well is that obviously I've got a target in my mind of what I want my protein intake to be during the day, and sometimes it's just, for me, it's about replacing, like I'll frequently get hungry mid-morning or mid-afternoon, and it may be not related to training or whatever, but I would tend to pick this instead of what I would typically have used to have done, which might be either just have a coffee and then have a couple of biscuits, which has obviously got no protein in it at all, or have something else that was a snack that might not have actually given me, one, the protein hit, but two, the satiation to get me through until my next meal. So that's another way I use it as well.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest reasons. It's the reason why I'll be taking 2 today. is I had one mid-morning when I got in here, so I had my breakfast. I got in here, I did an hour and a half of emails, found myself peckish, so I went and had one of them then. One, I've got the benefit of the caffeine that helps me with my work, which keeps Akash happy. My productivity is high. And the satiation effect, of course. And it's now that we're talking that, again, I'm thinking, I could just do something pre-training. I'll be having another one today. And I can already see it in Akash's eyes on the Skype call that he's thinking, when I come down on Friday, I want to try one of these.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah, there we go.
I
can read you now. I can read you like an open book. So you'll have some
cocoa and coconut one.
You want to try the coconut one? Yeah, they're honestly, as I said, I called you, Akash, and I excited and said, I think Dave would be a great person to get on the podcast. We should, form an affiliation for our clients because they're great products at the end of the day.
Dave, what's your own training history like? I don't know if Adam's going to ask you that.
Yeah, so it's my background is I played football at an okay level. Ended up playing semi-pro for AFC Wimbledon for a couple of years as they were starting out again. And actually, looking back, it was one of the things that probably held me back, as well as a lack of ability, was actually that my diet. I didn't know at that time that I was lactose and gluten intolerant. I really genuinely struggled to make it through games, even though I was training really hard and in theory quite physically fit. I was still struggling to get through the 90 minutes. And the reason was that because my nutrition pre-game was all about lactose and gluten. And that was the thing that really, really challenged me. And actually, I look at other similar, much higher profile athletes, and Novak Djokovic is a good example of someone who could really struggle to get through tennis matches, despite the fact that he was training harder than he'd ever trained before. And it was only at the point at which he was diagnosed as intolerant to lactose and gluten that he actually managed to really accelerate his performances. So that was a shame for me because I didn't find that out until my football career was basically over. But after that, I've trained in the gym fairly regularly for a fairly long space of time, but it's been predominantly from a vanity point of view to keep myself in good shape and also to be able to get through, football matches and stuff. But as I finish my football career now, I am starting to seriously think about what goals I want to try and challenge myself to achieve in the gym. And I'm definitely looking to what goals they might be in 2018, but probably once I've got this business up and launched properly, because trying to fit the two in at the same time is challenging at times.
What you've said just goes to show the importance of being self-aware with the foods you're bringing into your body, right? And the effect it can have on not only your performance in the gym, but your life overall, right?
Absolutely, massively. And I would recommend anyone who's got any potential concerns in terms of their performance or the way that they digest food, if they're struggling with bloating or nausea. One of the key things for me is I used to have huge doorstep sandwiches at lunchtime, and I get to about 3:00 and I could not keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
And that tiredness and stuff pretty much disappeared overnight once I'd taken the gluten out of my diet. But if you're seeing some of those symptoms, then you definitely need to look into what you might be intolerant to, because that might completely transform your performance, whether it be in the gym or in sport or whatever.
It's usually fatigue, brain fog, mood.
Definitely. Yeah. And also, it's just antisocial. Like, if you've got bad guts or bad wind, or, you're in meetings, you have to step out regularly. Let's be honest about it. It's just not a pleasant experience, and it can be quite embarrassing. So, it's something you definitely want to get to grips with. And I think you're right. People are more self-aware, but there's so many people who, when I talk to them about this brand and what I've been doing in my experience, they're like, do you know what? Yeah, maybe I am actually. I probably need to get that checked out.
A lot of people don't even realize they are.
This is what
feeling bad.
Yeah, this is what I was about to say. Is most people are just numb to it, in that they think that's just how they're meant to feel. It's not until somebody removes an element of their diet for a period of 3 to 5 days, and then when they reintroduce it, then it's like, oh shit, actually I do get bloated from this food. But most people nowadays, they just eat and just. Yeah, they're numb to the effects, if that makes sense. I think the only one really that most people know about is the IBS. If you run into the toilet every 2 minutes, and
but they don't see the
that's
other
an obvious one.
Right?
But the brain fog, the fatigue, I think that's one that most people they just think it's just life, and it's not until they actually try pulling certain foods out that then they realize how really we should be feeling.
Yeah.
So what's your vision with the brand for the next 12 months and then the next, say, 5 years?
Okay, so I guess the next 12 months, the key thing really is to build the distribution out for the iced coffees. So, we're in with Muscle Foods. We'll be in with Holland & Barrett shortly. I'd like to build that distribution out into other major retailers. And I'm speaking with a couple at the moment. I think if I could get a couple more of those away, then I've built some real critical mass, which will really help. Then obviously the key thing is making sure that we get the repeat orders and that people love the product and that people are aware of it. So, there's a marketing campaign that we're just about to launch now, which has, a lot of PR and social media stuff associated with it. I've got a lot of people over the last month or so to try the product, and it's been great actually as a startup to get, quite high profile people try the product and go, do you know what? Yeah, I'll get behind it. And that's that's quite reassuring, gives you the confidence that actually you might be onto something here. So that's really the plan for the next 12 months. I think within that as well, there'll also be another product launch. So as you know, Adam, I'm pretty close to finishing that next range of products, which I think has got scope to be as big, if not even bigger than the coffee. So I'm excited for that. I was saying over the next 5 years, I've used this phrase, I want to create a cornucopia of high protein deliciousness. So I want to create a wide range of different products to suit those, people every day like you and me who are on the go, who quite often have had to take certain foods out of their diets because they don't have the right macro makeup. And it's about me going, do you know what? If you love that product, then I'm going to find a way to make it high protein, taste as good as the original, and be lactose and gluten free. That's the challenge I've set myself. So that will be a wider range of ambient, of chilled products, of on the go products, maybe even take home products as well. So I've got a massive NPD range. So the there's no shortage of ideas. And then, I'd love to be able to. I've spoken to a couple of people actually in different countries already, in the US and in Australia, and I think there's potential demand for this brand out there as well. So I'd love to take it to those countries as well.
That's amazing.
Awesome. That sounds good. Akash, do you have any more questions?
No, I think we've covered all the bases. Yeah.
So let's wrap this up in where can.
One question. Do you have a team working, or is it just you right now?
Do you know what? At the moment, it is just me. Okay. So I'm using kind of consultants, and I've worked with. So I've got an NPD company that I work with. I've obviously got the manufacturers, and I've got some consultants here and there. But the only full-term employee at the moment is me. But
is it all manufactured in the UK?
It's manufactured. No, it's manufactured in Europe. I would have loved to have manufactured in the UK. I could not find a manufacturer who was prepared to entertain the sort of volumes that I would need to get going. Everyone was talking in like the hundreds of thousands of units kind of volumes, and that would have just, I wouldn't have been able to launch on that basis. So no.
Just anything else, Akash, or are you?
That's all good. All good.
Okay, so where can we get the products?
Cool. Okay, so you can get them on our website, getnourished.co.uk. You can get them on musclefood.com. And from the middle of February, you'll be able to get them from Holland & Barrett stores, selected Holland & Barrett stores nationwide.
Perfect. And in between, by the time this podcast is live, obviously I would like as many people to try these products as possible. So Dave's agreed to give our clients and our listeners 20% off. So by the time that this podcast is live, if you head to getnourished.co.uk and just put in the code RNT20, that will give you 20% off. So a big thanks to Dave for that one. And you can either feed back to Dave himself through the links on the website, or if you're clients of Akash and I's, or you follow us on social media, please feel free to feed back to me as well if you're already in contact with me, and I can pass it all on to Dave. I know that he's super open to refining everything going forwards. I've since the day I started at the Co-Tribe, I've been taste testing these coffees, and it's been a nice little perk actually, and the new products going forwards. So yeah, he's not set in his ways. He's open to feedback. He's going for what the consumer wants. So any feedback, we'd all like to know.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if people have got ideas for products, like as I said from the outset, this is about you. This brand is about you guys and people like you. So if you've got ideas for products that you think, you know what, I'd really like that product to exist and for it to be high protein and lactose and gluten free, then tell me. Like that would be amazing to get that feedback from you guys as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, Dave.
Cool. Thank you, guys. That was fun.
Not a problem at all. So let's just finish this one. Akash, do you want to do the outro? Because you did it perfectly last time, whereas I fuck it up every week.
Great. So if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us at RNT_fitness, at Akash Vagela, or at Adam Haley1. Or you can visit us on our website, www.rntfitness.co.uk.
And he's doing this thing again where he leans closer to the screen as if it's going to make him sound louder.
And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you've got 2 extra minutes,
he's on a roll. Come on, keep going.
A nice little written review below that. Thank you.
We'd appreciate that. And then if you screenshot your review before you submit it and email it to info@RNTFitness, we'll come up with some way of rewarding you for it, whether it's like a free diet plan, a free Skype consult, or something like that. Awesome. Right. Thanks so much, guys. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. See you later.
Bye.